Next in Line podcast, where we are helping to prepare you for whatever is next in line. As always, I'm your host, Chance Pitts, and I would like to thank you for tuning into this episode. Guys and gals, if you are new to the podcast, welcome. I know we're getting some new listeners coming in on YouTube, so welcome. It's awesome to see. We have a little bit of a requirement here. If you receive value from this episode and the message that we put out here on Next in Line, please make sure that you're sharing the show with like-minded people who might be able to receive that same kind of value. That's the number one way that we grow and we reach more people, and in effect of that, help more people. That's our overall goal, to help as many people as we can be prepared for whatever is next in line for them. Next, what you can do is you can leave us a rating or review or subscribe on whatever platform you find yourself listening on. That's also going to help us show up a little bit earlier in the search bar whenever people look for self-help or personal development style podcasts. It'll just help our overall visibility. So thank you to everyone who has done that. I know some of y'all are actively doing that, and it's made a huge difference. Like I said, we're seeing the numbers jump just a little bit, so very excited about that, guys. Next, of course, please make sure you're keeping up with us for our daily content and the things we put out motivation-wise on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. That is at Next in Line Development on all three of those platforms. We'd love to interact with you there. If you've got something we can help you with, shoot us a DM on that platform as well, and we will be glad to help however we can. Guys, so welcome into another Thoughtful Thursday. The topic I'm going to discuss with y'all is one that's come up pretty regularly here with several people who I've talked to. One in particular, I've got a coworker that we've been talking about this on a regular basis for a little while. He's a good friend of mine now. We've kind of grown close through this, the changes we've gone through here at work and some of the things we've been battling through. So it's cool to see. We talk every day, get to know each other pretty well. And one of the topic that continues to come up is Imposter Syndrome. So guys, those of y'all that don't know, imposter syndrome is the feeling of not belonging, feeling like you are an imposter. No matter what your level of experience is, how long you've been doing it, your knowledge, your success within whatever endeavor you're trying to pursue or chase after or engage in, you just feel like you don't deserve to be where you are, or you don't belong where you are. We see this a lot with the gym in particular, and any kind of physical activity like that. We see people show up and they're nervous or they're embarrassed or they feel like they shouldn't belong there whenever they see the guy next to them or the girl next to them that's in great shape, who's obviously been doing it for a long time. They've put in the time, the effort, they have the experience and the knowledge, and they might look a little bit mean too with that muscle they've got going on or the physical activities that they're doing that are pretty impressive. But guys, you should know that those people are there to help. They're not judging you 9 times out of 10. They're happy you're there, happy you're trying to improve yourself. And the only true requirement whenever you show up to the gym or you show up to that park to run or whatever it is, the only requirement for doing that is the desire to get better. You are not an imposter in any way just because you're inexperienced, whether you're brand new or whether you've been doing it a long time but you've just kept to yourself. It's something that everyone goes through, and everyone feels that feeling of kind of not belonging or feeling like you shouldn't be there. Another place that you might see that is in your job. If you find yourself in a leadership role leading people, and you find yourself thinking about, man, what am I doing in this role? Do I truly have what it takes to lead these people? Do I have the experience to get the job done? How did I find myself in this position in charge of all these people who might be older than me, who might have come from a different background? They have more experience in certain avenues of that business. That's another very popular place to find that imposter syndrome, and that's kind of the direction we've talked about that with work a little bit here and there. Just feeling almost inadequate whenever it comes to being the person in charge and really wondering if you should be there. But whenever it comes down to it, you've worked all those different positions. You've got great experience. You understand how the business runs. You've got knowledge that's going to pay out over time for that company. It makes you the most effective person to be in there. You've probably been doing it a little while. And the imposter syndrome is just that kind of false mindset that you find yourself in, and you're struggling with the idea of being in leadership. Like I said, guys, physical activity and work. Those are huge places that we see this in. Any kind of organization you find yourself trying to be a part of as well, whether you're diving into like jiu-jitsu, whether you're helping out with the Boy Scouts, helping out in your church, whatever it is, you often find yourself wondering if you're good enough to even hold a position or even be part of that or be considered a member of a prestigious group like that. We see it whenever people find themselves receiving rewards or find themselves being nominated for different things or being active in just society on a higher level of engagement. It's something everyone battles. In fact, you actually hear David Goggins, Cam Hanes, a lot of these guys that are people we would consider ultra successful in this situation of having that imposter syndrome. I know myself, I'm not calling myself overly successful or anything like that, don't get me wrong. But I know for myself, I find myself in that imposter syndrome state as well. I do with work, being honestly, whenever I stepped into management, a 23-year-old in an equipment industry that's dominated by older generation type people. Also, I find it whenever I'm getting ready to go ultra running, and I find myself lining up on the starting line with a bunch of people that are in great shape. They've got all the high-speed gear and high-tech gear and high-dollar gear as well. They've obviously been doing this a long time, and I think to myself, what are you doing, Chance? Why are you on the line with all these people that have ran all these races, that have found great success in their past? How do you think you're even going to compare to these people? And guys, I think that there's some strategies that we have to actively engage to combat this imposter syndrome that we tend to find. It's something that is not easy to get rid of, and it's not going to be something that you can just overcome on the fly. But I think that if you actively use some strategies, you can overcome imposter syndrome and get to a place of comfort and find a new level of success for yourself. Because what you're doing with that imposter syndrome is you're actually holding yourself back. Now, I have made a list here of the top 5 ways that you can combat the imposter syndrome. So guys, we're going to start out with number 1. You've got to look at the facts. You've got to understand what you are versus what you are not. Let's take it from the ultra running point of view, just as an example in my life. I know what I am. I am somebody that is extremely driven. I am extremely hard-headed. I am not somebody that's going to walk away or quit or back down from a challenge. I know that I am also inexperienced. I have not ran a lot of these races. However, I have put in the time, I've put in the effort, and I've worked very, very hard to get to a point that I am capable of running that distance. I am brand new, and I am a green hand whenever it comes to running those races, but I will never let myself put myself down as compared to other people, because I know that I have actually put in the time that it takes. Now, on the flip side, like I said, I know what I'm not as well. I know I'm not somebody that can just run out and run with the first place person. I'm not somebody that's going to come out and blow everyone out of the water. I don't have my nutrition or my eating schedules 100% dialed in. Obviously, we learned that in the Brazos Bend 50-100K when I blew up at mile 45. I have to understand what I'm capable of, what I'm not capable of, and I have to be honest with myself the entire process. That's going to be the number 1 way that I can combat this imposter syndrome. I have to look at the facts, and I have to understand what I am versus what I am not. Then, guys, number 2 on that list for combating the imposter syndrome is talk to someone. Preferably someone that has experience in the industry or in the field that you find yourself going into. Now, if you find yourself, like we led with that example of feeling like an imposter in a leadership role with work or with a company, find somebody that you admire or you consider a good leader within that company and go have a conversation. I am willing to bet that the odds are way in favor that they have, in fact, felt the same exact way that you are feeling right now. And they will probably tell you that you are doing a fine job. I want you to know that I would consider this one of the best ways. It's number 2 on the list, but it's way up there, guys. Go talk to someone. Share your thoughts. Put it out there. Get some feedback. Find out if you're doing things right. Find out if there's ways you can improve and become better. Find out if there's holes in your game that you can use to improve and build off of some of their past experiences so that you don't have to deal with the fact that you don't know if you're good enough to be in this spot. You can go ahead and figure it out from some kind of outside source of whether you're capable and whether you're doing a good enough job, guys. So that's number 2. Talk to someone. Number 3 in combating this imposter syndrome. Acknowledge your successes. Guys, it is the hardest thing to do if you're a humble person and you're someone who is just trying to be the best that they can every day, and you feel like you're never good enough, you feel like you're never satisfied with what you're doing. It's very hard to admit your successes. It's very hard to point out the things that you did good, but you have to do that. Guys, going back to the example with my ultra running, I have found some success. I've ran 3 ultra marathons and I finished 12th out of 118, 18th out of 50, and 3rd out of, I think it was about 50 or 60 runners. So all in all, that is a pretty successful record for someone who has no business trying to dive into some of those top spots. I've really outdone myself and I've really impressed myself, and it's due to a lot of the training and the time I've put in and the effort. And I have to acknowledge that success. I have to understand that, hey, there's some validity in me wanting to be up there with the top end of the performers in these races. I want to be one of the guys that's going to show up and end up winning some of these ultra marathons. I want to be very competitive. As I continue to adapt and learn, there's some credence there and there's some weight to me saying, hey, one of these days I'm going to go out and I'm going to run a 250-mile race, and I'm going to be competitive whenever I do it. I'm going to go out and I'm going to run this habanero 100, and I'm going to try to be competitive whenever I do it. And then in December, who knows, maybe I'm going to try to run Brazos Bend 100, and I'm going to try to be competitive whenever I do it, because I know I've found some past success. I can build off of those successes, and it's kind of like David Goggins talks about with taking a cookie out of the mental cookie jar to know where you stand and know your successes. Now, that's number 3, acknowledge your successes, but number 4 would be the antithesis of that. It would be acknowledge your shortcomings. Guys, you've got to understand these times and the spots where you fell short of your goals. That time whenever I talked about earlier on the 45-mile mark at the Brazos Bend 100K, at the Brazos Bend 50, I fell short. My plan did not come together, and I learned from it, guys. I learned that I had to be on top of my nutrition. I had to bring my A game whenever I showed up for these races, because that's the only way that I could have fueled my body and been able to keep running at the same pace and had a shot at being more competitive and reaching my full potential. I also know that there's some shortcomings I had and some growing pains in leadership and management within businesses that I've been involved in and some of the jobs and career paths that I've been able to have. I know there's been times whenever I did not choose the correct path. I did not give my team the correct plan of action to complete a task. And it came back and it bit us in the butt. But what we were able to do from that is we were able to learn so that next time we didn't have these same issues. But it started with being honest with myself about those shortcomings. So guys, that is number 4 on this list. Acknowledge your shortcomings. And guys, I said there's 5, so I'm going to leave you with this 5th point of imposter syndrome and way of combating it. And that is, be passionate about what you find yourself engaging in. Whatever it is, make sure that you are going balls to the wall. I don't know how else to say it, guys. You are flying around 100%, giving your full effort and your full attention whenever you're doing it. Because if you are someone who is truly passionate and you care about being successful and you care about the activity that you are doing, whether it's your career, whether it's with your church, whether it's in your physical activity, whatever you find yourself engaging in, guys, if you are passionate with that, there's no way you can be an imposter, because you are someone who truly cares about the outcome. You have made it to a point in your life, in your career, in your decision making, whatever process you find yourself in, you've made it to the point to where you actually care. There is weight behind what you're doing because you are passionate about it. And that is a huge underlying thing to this whole list. Whenever you look back at this list, looking at the facts of everything, you can look at the facts and see, okay, I am this, I am not this, I am this, but I'm not that. And guys, the underlying factor is, I'm not this right now, but I'm going to be that. I am this because I want to be that. I'm super passionate, and that's what's driving me to be able to be that. And then if you look at number 2, talking to someone. If you are passionate enough to take the time to talk to someone about where you are in that process and to ask questions and to receive honest feedback and constructive criticism, that is a huge part of being passionate, guys. If you're passionate enough to do that, you are passionate enough and involved enough to grow and to reach a new level of success. Then number 3, acknowledging your success, guys. If you are passionate about being successful within whatever endeavor you find yourself chasing, then you are going to continue to find success. You're going to be able to see and say, hey, I did this very well. And on the same token, number 4, acknowledging your shortcomings, you're going to be able to say, man, I really screwed up on that. And that passion is going to make it bother you that much more. And it's going to ensure that you don't end up making the same kind of error that you made before. And guys, that just leads back into number 5 with the passion. Now, there is a caveat to all this that I will leave you with before I shut it down for today. And the caveat is an imposter syndrome is only specific to somebody that actually cares and is actually passionate and actually wants to be successful within an endeavor. If you aren't putting in the time, if you aren't putting in the effort, if you're just doing it to fit in or because it seems cool or you think you can earn a quick buck or it's something that other people want you to be involved in, then you cannot have imposter syndrome. You are actually an imposter in a lot of ways. You're not somebody that's putting in the time. You're not putting in the effort. You're not doing what it takes on a day in and day out basis to be successful. So it's very important to understand that. Don't go in and try to be something you're not. Don't go in and just do something because it seems like a cool thing to do and then half-ass it. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to find out the success that you can achieve for yourself whenever you're fired up about something, whenever you actually have a goal and you're working towards something in your life. So guys, that's the caveat I will leave you with. Remember, guys, these 5 strategies: look at the facts, talk to someone, acknowledge your success, acknowledge your shortcomings, and be passionate about that activity. And guys, you'll be able to kick imposter syndrome to the curb no matter what you are doing in life, no matter where it rears its head up in your development process. You will be able to get past it with flying colors. Guys, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Next in Line podcast. This has been another Thoughtful Thursday. Thanks for tuning in. Share the show with somebody. Hang out with us on social media. If you're in the area, check us out this coming weekend in Belton for the Spartacus Dash on the 28th of May. And guys, always be prepared for whatever is next in line.